What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Parabellum Podcast. I'm Sean, your host and owner of Parabellum Strength and Fitness. Uh, took a little 2 week hiatus from the podcast and even from social media because sometimes I just need it. I need to get away from it. I need to not focus on it. But not to mention, my kids were off for spring break. It's really hard to do a podcast when you got three boys running around the house. Um, and then last week, I had the privilege of being able to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and spend a day. I was gone for the whole week, but me being originally from North Carolina, I knew that there was people who I needed to see. Um, but I got to spend Friday with Alpha Company 2508. Uh, the Independence Fund puts together what's called Operation Resiliency, where they do a reunion and they fund a reunion of combat units there in Charlotte. And Alpha Company 2508 was the hasn't done theirs yet, and Bravo and Charlie both did theirs there in Charlotte a couple of years ago. So it was Alpha Company's turn. Um, Friday was a day where uh, they put together some PT stuff, which uh, I think it's funny that they've got any reunion. There's going to be some kind of PT, and it's always some kind of CrossFit stuff. Uh, I have my issues with CrossFit, and I know the organizer of that PT would probably lose his mind on me because of my issues with CrossFit, but whatever. Uh, but I walked up and they were out at a place called The Green, which is very nice little grassy area in the middle of downtown Charlotte. And they were doing a little workout. I got there 10 minutes after it started, jumped in on the workout. But before I could even jump in on the workout, I had guys walking up, smiling, hugging me. Quite a few of them. Man, I watch your stuff on social media. I love it. To which, of course, I replied, "Hey, hit the like button. It's free, and hit the share button. It's free too." Um, Shameless plug there. But seeing faces that I haven't seen in 15 years, the they're more than just family. I think the word family is way too overused and underappreciated. Those guys, we all have a bond that can't be explained unless you've been to combat. And I mean real combat, not there's a few rockets that hit us over there. I've got my CIB. No, like 2, 3 hour firefights uh, where you lost a brother or um, just the fact that you're in that situation, kind of like Band of Brothers, where Lieutenant Spears looks at Blythe and says, "Your problem is that you haven't accepted the fact you're already dead. Once you accept that, you can fight." Over the years, myself and my platoon sergeant from that deployment, who I've spoken about many times, and him being my best friend still, we've talked about that, and we had resigned ourselves to the fact that we were going to die there. And I think just about everybody there did. We didn't speak about it at the time, um, but we all had that I'm going to die here. And when we accepted that, the bond that we shared is unbreakable. Now, there's plenty of dudes that we don't like each other. Um, we never will like each other, but it's kind of one of those things. We can dislike each other, but if an outsider comes after somebody, we're all locking arms and going, you're messing with one of ours. Doesn't work that way. We don't allow that to happen. And when I walked up to the green and immediately started catching hugs and smiles, it was just a nice little sigh. It was just like, my boys. For 15 years, I'm sorry, 14 years, because I retired in 24. Um, I tried to recreate what was built in 3rd Platoon Alpha Company 2508. I tried to recreate that platoon that took on the world and won. Yes, we lost 2 guys out of our platoon, but we still won. And I tried to recreate that. I tried to recreate it when I went down to Fort Bliss. And I tried to do everything that my platoon sergeant did. And I built a good squad. I was a weapons squad leader at Bliss. I built a good squad. No doubt about it. Still wasn't the same. When I was a drill sergeant right after I left Bliss, tried to recreate that same brotherhood. Not even close. Missed. Huge miss. Then when I became a platoon sergeant and I went to the Rockassans, I came close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And yes, I have a horseshoe and hand grenade tattoo. And then when I was an RTC instructor, yeah, that wasn't going to happen either, or as an OC. So I figured out why I couldn't recreate it. And I told the guys this. It was the right people in the right place at the right time. Everything came together. And that's the Lord. That's God putting that together. Um, and I know someone will say, well, if it was God, why'd you lose 2 people? Well, I don't know. I don't have God's mind. I wish I did. But I do believe that God put the right people together at the right time in order to save the majority of the lives that went over. We did the little workout thing, which I was glad to see that a lot of the guys are still in good shape. Most guys get out of the Army and they immediately, it's like they try to let themselves go. It's like they have a competition. How fast can I make my health go downhill? A lot of the guys were still in good shape, which I was thrilled about. Um, but seeing them during that time and just getting to kind of joke with them and laugh with them and do some stuff was great. And then going to the workshop, which was really, it's another word for we're going to get together and we're going to talk about things. The workshop is where I realized how badly the guys are still hurting. And I'm going to come at this from a position of heartbrokenness for the guys that are still hurting. And we're all going to hurt in our own way. But some of those guys, they're hurting a lot worse than others. And that's okay. I wasn't even going to go to this. My wife convinced me because, and I asked her, I said, do you think I need healing from the Argon Dob? And she said, no, I honestly don't. I think you're fine. And I put a great amount of faith in my wife and her opinion, which every husband should with their wives. If not, divorce her. Uh, but I put a great amount of faith in my wife's opinion on this subject because my wife is a combat veteran and she's not your she's she's been her fair share of two-way live fires. Um, so I asked her, I said, so why do I need to go? Because I'm not a very emotional person. I don't really like emotion. Uh, and it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut when things get emotional. But she said, because I believe that the Lord wants you to go to show them what healing can look like. You're not supposed to go up there and talk about how great your life is or anything like that. Just show up. Show up and see what doors God opens for you. And I went back and forth, didn't, and still, even on the drive up there, because we drove from Southeast Texas to Charlotte, North Carolina, because we got an RV. Let me tell you, we're going to get into that later, or maybe another episode. But anyway, uh, still didn't really want to go until I saw the guys. And then it was like, yeah, I'm glad I came. This is exactly what I needed. But during the workshop, which was the purpose was to really tell the story from pre-deployment to post-deployment and form a timeline. I heard guys that were truly still hurting, and my heart broke for them. Then guys talked about one guy, great dude, hilarious dude. I love him. He uh he talked about something, giving your soul a voice. And context of that, he was a team leader in our first squad, and the other team leader in our first squad was killed. And I loved that guy. I loved him. I don't. I can't think of anyone in the platoon that. I mean, trust me, some of the Joes hated him because he did his job. And when you're a leader, you're going to be hated by some people. But for the most part, we all loved him because he was full of life. He had a great sense of humor, a little dark, but great, great kid. But the guy that I'm talking about, he had survivor's guilt. And he said, I sat down with my wife one night. I told her, just shut up and listen. I don't need a therapist. I just need you to let me get it out. And he said he began telling the story of how the other team leader was killed. And out of nowhere, he said, I'm so pissed off that I'm alive and he's not. And he said he went back and really did some self-reflection and said, is that really what I think? And he finally came to the conclusion, no, that's not what I think at all. That was my soul getting it out. So he said, I call it giving my soul a voice. And I've done that probably 40 to 50 times with my wife. And he said, I think something different comes out every time. I think that's super healthy. And I commend him for having the balls to get that vulnerable with his wife. I commend him because I guarantee you it made his marriage better. I commend his wife for being what a wife should be, which is a partner and a helper, and recognizing that he's not just bitching to bitch, he's trying to get better. And he's trying to heal from something that really hurt him. I will definitely send him a link to this and he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. I won't mention a lot of names during this podcast because it's their privacy. And I just don't believe in doing that. I will mention one name later on, but I've already told him that I would do that and he's fine with it. But anyway, you know, I think that guy was just, my heart went out to him, number one, because he's still feeling the effects of that. But number two, I was so proud of him for being an adult, for being a dude. That's dude stuff right there. Uh, and he talked about it. At first I coped with drugs and alcohol, but then I started doing something else to fix it. I know a couple of years ago he got saved. I didn't ask him if he's still walking with the Lord, and didn't really look to place any judgment on that. Um, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. Other guys talking about wanting to eat a bullet or wanting to end it, and they didn't, and praise God they didn't. And the one guy that talked about it, I walked up to him afterwards and I said, "Hey, you're still here for a reason. God has a plan for you. Surrender to him." And of course, we in the infantry, especially airborne infantry, especially 82nd guys, we're all airborne all the way. We're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Uh, all those things. Surrender is such a dirty word to us. But when you surrender to the Lord, you gain victory, because you can take all these hurts and lay them at his feet. The problem most people have with that is it's not instantaneous. When you open a bottle of liquor and some pills, the effects of that usually take effect within about 10 to 30 minutes, and you're feeling great. When you choose God, sometimes immediately it's gone, in rare instances. But for the most part, it takes time and effort. I equate a relationship with God with your marriage, with fitness. You know, if I talk to my wife by my choosing every other day, once a week. Let's say I just talk to my wife once a week, just walk by her and ignore her the rest of the week. That marriage is not going to last. If I do that with God, I don't have any relationship with him at all. If I do that with the gym, if I, go lift weights once a week, I'm not making any progress. What's the point? If I do it with God, I'm slapping him in the face, because odds are I'm only running to him when something's gone wrong. But you got to have that relationship with him, and it has to be a daily relationship. And I told my buddy, God wanted you here. You have a purpose. Surrender to him. And he said, "Yeah, I started going to church. I haven't been reading my Bible. It's dusty." I said, "Devil's not afraid of a dusty Bible. You can go shake a dusty Bible at him all you want. He's just going to laugh at you. He's afraid of the Bible that's falling apart because it's been read so much. He's afraid of the guy that can quote scripture and fire it at him." And I know the devil can quote scripture too, but when a believer can fire scripture off the top of their head at a situation, the devil runs, because God comes to help. Because God says, "Oh, look, they're paying attention. They've got it in their heart. They've got it in their soul. I'm going to go help them." I don't want to digress too much down that road, because then I could turn this into the 3-hour podcast. But hearing other guys talk, and, one of the biggest things was survivor's guilt. And as I sat there, I went, again, is something wrong with me that I don't have and never did survivor's guilt? I I never had that. And I talked to one of my buddies afterwards, and he said, "I never had that. I never had survivor's guilt." And he said, then I started feeling guilty because I didn't have it. And I said, to some degree, I have the same thing. Um, but I looked at him and I said, but while I was sitting there, it dawned on me God spared me from survivor's guilt without me even asking him. God made sure that wasn't a part of me. I don't know, maybe because he knew I couldn't handle it. That's a possibility. Maybe because he knew that I wouldn't be able to handle that, and the other two deployments to Afghanistan that were going to follow in my career. I don't know, but I didn't have that, and it dawned on me that God spared me without me even having to ask, without me having to go through any of that. So praise God for that. I did question if there was anything else I could have done. God spared me from that. So I am going to send this via Facebook to all those guys because I didn't feel like it was the right place or right time to share it with them, because I think that they needed to be around their brothers and share what was on their heart and get it out without being preached at. They needed that time to say it and get it out of their system without somebody immediately firing back at them. Well, this is how you fix it, because that's what's done in the Army. They needed to get it off their chest. I wanted to. My wife said, "Hey, at least you showed them." I went, "Showed them what? Me?" She goes, "Yeah. You still always look angry, but that's what they know about you. You're always angry. It's what you look like. But you're thriving, and you're thriving because you have the Lord and because you took the good things from that deployment." The Army has a thing called Master Resiliency training, and I never went to the class, and I made fun of it because the biggest slogan out of it was "Hunt the good stuff." So cheesy, right? But that 2010 deployment, I look back and I go, you know, I did hunt the good stuff out of that deployment. And some of the guys that were there would say to me, what good came out of it? Well, as I said, I had two more deployments after that. And I was one deployment was right back into the Arghandab River Valley at Bravo Company's COP, which we provided security for them while they were setting it up. And then the other deployment was to Sangin province Sangin in Helmand province. And, we were in some pretty continuous gunfights there in 2017. And I was there for when President Trump dropped the Moab. So there was more to follow that I did. And one of the fellas, he's still active duty. He's a first sergeant. Great guy. Love him to death. Hilarious. He talked about how for quite some time after that deployment, he would sit in his garage and wonder what's wrong with me. Nothing excites me. Nothing gets me going. It's like I have no feeling, no emotion. And that is a defense mechanism for quite a few men, but especially warriors. I believe there's a difference between a soldier and a warrior. A soldier gets paid and goes and does what he's told because he wants his paycheck. A warrior thrives off the chaos and really doesn't know how to behave without some kind of chaos in their life. Do they enjoy it? No, I didn't say that. Do they enjoy war? No, they don't. but they're comfortable with it. That's my opinion. We love to talk in Western society. We love, warrior culture. Uh, we in the Army, they wanted us to call basic training recruits warrior. Shut up. You ain't been to war. I don't know what you are. You don't know what you are until you actually gone and done it. We glorify the quote unquote warrior culture. The real warriors are carrying around some burdens. The real warriors, to some degree, don't like something about themselves. And it's the fact that I'm at home in all that chaos. I don't like the chaos. I wish I wasn't at home at it, but I am. That's comforting. That's my opinion of what a warrior is. And I told the guy who said that, I said, hey, man, there's nothing wrong with you. You're an adult. You're a true adult man. Nothing excites you. Nothing gets to you. Have you ever thought that maybe you took that from the Argandab because, and this is the way I put it, and I've said this in my podcast before, I look at my wife and I go, anybody shooting at us? Anybody trying to blow us up? No, it ain't that bad of the day. We can fix it. We can get through this. Anybody dying? No? Okay. It's not that bad of a day. We can figure it out. Calm down. Everybody remain calm. And he kind of looked at me and goes, yeah, that's a good point. And that's the way I look at life. Calm down. Nobody's shooting at us. Nobody's trying to blow us up. None of my kids are dying. I'm not dying. My wife's not dying. My mom, my dad, nobody's dying. We can all get through this. Remain calm. And I said, but I guarantee you this. You do get excited when one of your kids succeed. You do get excited when something good happens to your wife. You do get excited when you see, young Joe Snuffy do something that he's never been able to do before. You get excited when you see other people succeed. I got that from the Argandab. The Argandab taught me to be a better leader. The Argandab taught me that it wasn't all about me. I took a lot of lessons from the Argandab. I had a very cantankerous team leader that my platoon sergeant undercut me with him quite a bit. And then my platoon sergeant finally realized it and he stopped. So that was a leadership challenge for me. I had to recognize in the Argandab that I didn't have all the answers and that I needed to become the type of leader that would listen to my subordinates and even take on the responsibility of allowing them to run with an idea, knowing if it goes wrong, I'm the one that gets in trouble. But that's my responsibility as a leader. Allow them to make mistakes, but pull them back right before they go off the deep end. When we go through hardship, you got to look at the lessons that can be positively applied to your life. And that's part of the healing process of those hardship times. I'm not going to do the whole Andy Frisella, Sean, what's his name, lions not sheep thing. And you need to want pain and discomfort. Nobody wants pain and discomfort. Those guys don't know what pain and discomfort is. Pain and discomfort is living in a schoolhouse built in 2003 by Japanese funds where the teachers were shot in the back of the head in the very room that you're sleeping in, and you got to go clean the black mold off the wall from their blood with water and a scrub brush. I think maybe we got some simple green at some point in time. It's heating with a 55-gallon drum, and sub 30-degree temperatures in Afghanistan, sleeping in a Humvee. It's going on patrol, walking back in the razor wire, picking up a shovel, pulling a HESCO basket out, a 7-foot HESCO basket, and trying to fill that bad boy up with a shovel after you just did a 2-hour patrol. And doing that day in, day out for months until it gets warm enough for the Taliban to crawl out of their wintertime hole and start shooting at you, and keep doing that for approximately the next 90 days. Now, let's see, May, June, July, August. All right, so maybe 90 to 120 days. That's hardship. That's hardship. I don't care if you were poor and you grew up and became rich. Hardship is getting shot at every day. Hardship is coming to a point of saying to yourself, I'm not getting out of this place alive. Cop Colwall is my resting place. It's my home. And we looked at it that way, and we defended it that way because we built it. It was home. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into that place. That's hardship. When we take the lessons that we got from that and turn it into something good and allow it to make us a better person, we heal a little bit better. I by no means say forget the guys that paid the ultimate price. I've got one of them shadow box sitting right behind me. I'm wearing a KIA bracelet for one of them right now. It's not forget them. It's honor them by becoming better. It's honor them and their memory by becoming a better person. That deployment made me a better leader. And it didn't do it right away. It's not like I walked off the plane and became immediately better. And it didn't make me a better person right away. I had, like I said, I went back to the Arghandab to Cop Ware in 2013. And when I got home from that deployment in 2014, no, 2012, and got home in 2013, I had done a lot of healing going back to the Arghandab and seeing that it was, for all intents and purposes, I'll use the word pacified. Does that make Piercy and Karch's death any easier? No. And their deaths weren't worth it. But it did help me heal a little bit. It calmed me down. And again, the other thing that calmed me down was I surrendered to the Lord. And that's a daily choice. I do it every day. I have to choose that every day. It's on the same premise, but the opposite way of a drug addict. A recovering drug addict has to choose every day not to pick up the drugs. I have to choose every day to pick up my word, pick up my Bible, read it, talk to the Lord, and not just run to him and, can you give me this? Can you help me with that? I need, but to actually say, thank you. Thank you, Lord, for everything that you've done for me. I think one of the things that really helped me heal, little segue. We were at Cop Colwall, and it was during the summer. It was hot. I remember that. But I had called home on my Roshan phone. If you've served, you know what a Roshan phone is. It's the prepaid minutes where they rob you blind on a old Nokia phone. I say old, but Well, they were old even by 2010 standards. Um, Now they're ancient. Um, but I called my mom, and it was late in the afternoon, which was surprising because usually the Taliban would shut off the cell phone towers later in the afternoon. But it was unusual that it was still working. So I'd call my mom, just say hey, and it somehow got to be a pretty deep conversation. And then a firefight broke out, and I had to go fast. Love you, bye. To my mom's credit, she's not one of these. What is that? Tell me what's going on. What's happening? My mom's not. She's not the hysterical, stupid woman. Uh, and I know that's probably going to tick somebody off, but oh well. Uh, so I hung up on her and threw on my body armor and went to work, grabbed my weapon and went to work. But the next time I got to talk to her, no, it was when I got home. When I got home, she we were sitting down. She said, "This one was pretty bad, wasn't it?" I said, "Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that war that I'd been asking for." you know, my first two deployments weren't really a war, but I got it this on the third one. And she said, "Do you remember when you called me?" And she remembers the month. I don't. Um, I said, "Okay. What about it? That day that firefight broke out and you hung up on me." She has to throw that in there because she is still a mom and she will guilt trip you. It's just a mom thing. I said, "Okay. Uh, what about it?" She said, "That's the first time in your life that I've ever heard you have any fear." She said, "I've never heard you afraid." And that made me afraid. So she went to church and she talked to my pastor. And my pastor is like I said, um, he's a Vietnam vet. And he told her, yeah, he's afraid and he has every reason to be afraid. So as he just said, well, he has every reason to be afraid. It's a rough one over there. I've been watching the news. That's where I can say that, I definitely got to a point where I'm going to die here. And once I made peace with that, there was a lot of peace just overall. But when I got home, I was able, from the period of 2010 to 2013, I was kind of all over, 2012, I was all over the place. Um, I did quit drinking because I chose the Lord. After a night of being super stupid drinking, it scared me enough I've got to get back with God. I can't keep living this crazy, stupid life. I was raised in the church. I was raised by a pastor, two of them, both my parents are ordained ministers. And I just said, this is not the way I need to do things. I got to get back with the Lord. But I still had one foot in the world as well. And when I went to the job a second time and got home the second time, it was kind of like a big breath of fresh air. I was not nearly as hypersensitive to everything going on around me. I mean, I still do it to this day where I have to sit with my back to a wall in a restaurant. I know where all the exits are. I ride in the left-hand lane and do all the things that a veteran does. Uh, but God's brought me peace about it. And as I sat in the meeting with the guys, I felt bad almost for having that peace. And then I thought, well, how can I can't relate to them right now because I have peace about the deployment. It made me better. At least I feel like it did. It made me a better person. It made me look at life like, man, it ain't that bad. Nothing happening to me right now is that bad because I've seen the worst. 2010 was it. And what I'm going through right now is not nearly as bad. I want to I want the guys to understand that there's some healthy ways of healing, and I would love for them to explore them. Whether it be you reach out to me or anybody else, if you want to reach out to me, please by all means. Number one, Jesus. Jesus is the answer, and he is, but it's a daily thing. It's a daily, Lord, take this away from me. I don't want it anymore. And I'm just going to focus on how good you are and how good you've been to me. And even if you've been on drugs, alcohol, whatever, if you're broke, God's still good to you because you're still breathing. You got bad things happening in your life. Guess what? God or Jesus said in the word, you will have troubles in this life, but fear not. I have overcome the world. So he warned us. Life's going to get rough. Life's going to get painful. But I will overcome it for you. You just got to listen to me and you just got to stay with me. And then, and that takes total surrendership. That takes a daily walk, a daily relationship with him, and a lot of thanksgiving. Next, find somebody to help. I said this in the meeting. I got home. My pastor opened up about his experiences with Vietnam. Uh, and he would talk to me about it in private, or semi-private. People just kind of be around. Um, and his daughter said, he's never talked about that. I've never heard that. Why is he talking to you about it? Uh, and he told his daughter, he said, because Sean understands it and you never will. He gets it. You never will because you've never been there and you never will be. He even started talking about Vietnam in his sermons. The shame was gone. And I didn't do anything. I was just there and let him talk and let him vent. And there was no negative judgment from me. So I was able to help him, which made me feel better because I have a great deal of respect for him. Same thing with my uncle. So, number two, go find somebody to help and don't make it about you. Make it about them. Even if you're just sitting there listening to them, actively listening. I know me personally, it's easy for me to go do that with Vietnam vets uh, because I find them interesting, fascinating, what have you. And I just got a lot of love for them because they got treated so horribly when they got home. Number three, put down the booze, the vape, the cigarette, and pick up a weight. Pick up a dumbbell. Go get on a treadmill. Go get on a bike. Go get physically active and get physically healthier. When you are physically healthier, you feel better. And I know I've got so many injuries, man. So many injuries. Here's the one guy I'm going to mention by name, Nick Stone. Nick Stone, amputee, had his leg blown off by an IED. His other leg severely injured in the blast. It's not like a blast just hits one limb and leaves the other one untouched. And that dude is still jacked. Still lifts. Still runs around playing paintball. Still very active. So stop with my injuries prevent me. He's not letting his injury prevent him. And he's missing a limb. He's a stud. You don't have an excuse. Herniated discs, you can work around them. There's other things you can do. Men are physical creatures. If you're stressed, if you're angry, you've got to get that out physically. You can't, I'm not saying it's not healthy to go sit and talk to people. You need to do that as well. But for men, We have to get that stress out in a physical manner. Women do too, but it's mainly men. So go get in shape. Well, the Army made me do PT and I hate it. Okay, find something that you enjoy. Go do it a lot. Don't want to lift weights? Run. Do calisthenics, chop wood, something. Do something and get physically healthy. I haven't heard from her yet, but the lady that put this together approached me about helping with some programming with the Independence to Fund, and I'd be happy to do it. I'm going to put this offer out there to the 2508 guys. It's only 2508. If you want to get back in shape, I'll build the program for you for free and put it on my app. Again, that is only for 2508 guys. And I'll coach you through it. There are other nonprofits out there that are put together by former military members that are trying to get veterans to get back in shape because it is a productive way of working out that stress. That's what I want for you guys. So to end today's show, it was great seeing everybody. I love every one of you. If you're watching this and you haven't experienced what we experienced, sit down with a veteran, shut your mouth, and listen to him. Don't give him any, well, I was going to join. No, you weren't, or else you would have. Sit down, listen to him, because you might be the only person that they can give their soul a voice to. And if you're trying to fill the air with your own voice, you're shutting their soul off. Give them a chance. If you know a veteran, try to encourage them to give their soul a voice with you. Try to encourage them, if they're not in great shape, to get up, do something with you. And I'm not saying all veterans need this. I'm not saying all veterans, we're all poor, pitiful, whatever. But those guys, they get in their heads. If you're married to one, hey, be supportive. Kick them in the ass when they need it, but be supportive. So, like I said, 2508 guys that see this, contact me. I won't tell anybody about it. You want to get back in shape, I'll do the program for you for free. This is not a business engagement. I want to help you guys and I love you guys. And everybody else, check out parabellumsaf.com. Anyway, I got to get running. Appreciate you listening. For all the 2508 guys that watch this, again, I love you. Remember, be strong. Do not let your hands be weak, for the Lord shall reward the work of your hands. Parabellum out.